Hey folks, we're back. My name is Tom Blute and I'm the events manager for Interabang Books. So delighted that you can join us this evening for an incredible event. We are so excited to host Ronny Lvovski with his book, The Primal Gourmet Cookbook. Also in conversation with us tonight is Alex Snodgrass, the author of The Defined Dish. Before I turn it over to these two incredible cooks and authors, I wanted to give a shout out to all those folks who support Interabang Books. It means the world to us that you would select our independent bookstore to keep alive even during these crazy, crazy times. For those of you who don't know about our bookstore, we are a small independent bookstore located in Dallas, Texas. If you'd like to order any books from us, you can do so through our website, interabangbooks.com. During our business hours, you can reach out to us over the phone at 214-484-4289. We hope that along with this social media platform, you'll follow us on other platforms, namely Twitter and Instagram. We're on there. If you want to keep an eye out for any future events we do, like this one, we're doing them solidly through the holiday season. Keep an eye on that website, interabangbooks.com, as well as this platform, Facebook. That's where most of our live events are going to show up now that we're all doing virtual events, which is a lot of fun and a great deal of time and energy well spent. So I want to remind everybody that they can order the books, both The Defined Dish as well as the Primal Gourmet Cookbook, tonight online at interabangbooks.com. I've got the link here in the post, which is over my head. And if you've got any questions for authors, please do drop them down below in our comment section right here. We'd love to ask these authors our questions, but I have to have them from you before I can pass them along. For those of you who are looking to be in the bookstore, I do have a little bit of an update. While we are normally open during COVID times, for those who are wearing masks and social distancing in the store, we are currently going through a little bit of a renovation. So we're switching to curbside service for the next little while here. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to us, like I said, on social media, at our phone number, over the web, whatever works best for you. Now, I have talked for far too long, so I'm going to turn it over to our incredible moderator, Alex Snodgrass. Alex, take it away.
Thank you so much. And thank you all for being here. And Ronny, thanks for having me.
Are you kidding?
I know.
Thank you so much.
It's hard to cook together. And even though it's a little different virtually, I'll take it. I'm excited to be here with you and excited to celebrate your beautiful new book. I noticed the one that you have in your kitchen looks different than mine.
Yes. Okay. Well, first, thank you so much. Before I shamelessly plug the book, thank you so much for joining me. Like you said, we've wanted to do this for a long, long time. It only took a global pandemic to be able to make it happen. So thank you so much. Yes, you have in your hands the American cover, the American edition. I have here the Canadian edition, and this is a common question that I've been asked. One is for US markets, one is for Canadian markets. They're identical. The only difference, that's my oven going off. I got to get one thing out of there. But the only difference between the books is the cover page and the title. And my Canadian publisher decided to go with a different cover. I didn't even know you could have different covers. So there you go. It happened. We're rolling with it. I'm pretty happy about it.
The Canadians and the Americans want something different on the cover, apparently.
You know, I deferred to the experts here. I said, you know, do you want to do it.
Yeah, when they saw you holding up your book, like, oh my gosh, I'm about to cook this recipe and I don't have the right book. So I wanted to clear the air there.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. This is I made a pizza for Sophia for dinner. So I just got to bring this to her 1 sec. I'm going to put this right here and I'll be right back. I'm sorry. I'll
tell you guys a quick story real quick. We were talking away earlier, getting everything set up, and his first pizza for Sophia bit the desk because he didn't set a timer. So he had to make her a second one. So
not my finest parenting moment. To make a pizza, you know, a frozen pizza, because everything is going crazy here, but also to burn it, the first one. So I popped in another one. I'm sorry. Thank you. I'm back.
No, it's fine. It's real life. That's
2020 is hitting different, right?
Okay. And so I know I can speak on behalf of everybody here because I am in the same boat as them. We are all huge fans of Primal Gourmet. I have been for years, and I'm so glad to be your friend and just fan, to be honest, because I get to reap the benefits of all the beautiful things that you create. And I'm so excited you finally have a book. So before we get started cooking, I wanted to real quick just kind of get your kind of timeline of when you started Primal Gourmet, to kind of like how you got to where you are now to publishing this book.
Oh yeah, sure. I'll start by saying the feeling is 100% mutual. I'm a huge defined dish fan, and I think I speak for everyone when I say that. So the timeline was, I started my blog about 5 years ago. I think it was 2015, September. So I think it was actually, or maybe it was July that I started my YouTube, and then September I had the blog. So I think we've hit the 5-year kind of anniversary. I don't know the exact date. I'll have to look that up. And it was just a matter of continuing to share recipes, sometimes frequently, sometimes infrequently. At the time that I started my blog, I was finishing my PhD in art history. And then I started teaching for a couple of years there at various colleges and universities here in Toronto and throughout the Greater Toronto area. So it was just a matter of trying to fit in the blogging in the spare time between school and work. And then I was approached by Lisa, our beloved literary agent, and she cold called me and said, "Hey, do you want to do a book?" And it felt really right, and I had a kind of pivotal decision to make where I had to decide, did I want to really jump in with both feet into the blogging and give up teaching, or did I want to stick with teaching and still try to manage the blog? And I decided to, take the leap, and I committed to the book and the blog full time. And really what lit the fire under my rear end was the fact that I had, Sophia was like a couple months, coming in just a couple months. So I figured, I gotta make this happen. So I'm very happy I did. And then the book was started in 2018 when I did the proposal. We wrote a proposal in 2018, and it took 2 years to get it done. But you know all about this process, right? It's a long time.
For sure. Well, we're so happy it's here in the flesh finally so that we can cook. And I want to touch on this later, so we won't go deep diving into the Whole30 question yet, because I want to hear a little bit more about your journey there. And I know that this recipe is Whole30 that we're going to make tonight. How many recipes are Whole30 or easily modified to be in this book? And then how many are more for food freedom? Sure,
that's a very good question. So in the book, there are 123 recipes. I don't know how I landed on 123, but I did. And 100 of them are Whole30 or easily modified to be so. So it's a Whole30 endorsed book, which essentially means that 50% of the recipes have to be Whole30 or easily modified. I decided to do 100 just because, I don't know, I'm crazy like that, and it's the way I like to cook, and I feel like that's where I have the most to share in my culinary experience as a self-taught cook and somebody who likes to create recipes. So there's 100 that are Whole30 easily modified to be so. There are 20 that are paleo only. So there are some things that are they have natural sweeteners like maple syrup or honey, or there's a couple things that would fall under SWIPO. If you're not familiar with SWIPO, it's basically a paleo-fied version of an indulgent kind of unhealthy food. Like I have a fish and chips recipe, which I would consider SWIPO. It's kind of like, the acronym is sex with your pants on. It's good, but it's not as good as the real thing. Not my term. That's Whole30's term. I just happen to use it. So then there are others in the book that are both Whole30 and paleo. That falls under the 100 recipes. And 3 of the recipes are neither nor. So you have 2 recipes with chickpeas in them, because I love chickpeas. I'm a huge legumes fan. I love beans and chickpeas. So I wanted to include a couple in there. And then one is my mom's matzo ball soup, which is made with matzo meal, which is not paleo or Whole30, but it's so good. Wow. Well, that's incredible. I can't believe you did 100 of them that are Whole30. I know everyone will appreciate that, especially this month in January. So I want to learn a little bit about kind of your inspiration behind this dish. I love the cook time on the page. Says 20 minutes, and we all love. You gotta set a timer to see if we hit it. And we know it's gonna taste good because Ronny made it, but a 20-minute meal on a night like tonight, a Wednesday night, usually when you're at school the next day or whatever's going on in your life, the 20-minute meal is really nice. I'm curious about
this dish. Tell us a little bit about it, and then we can get started cooking.
So this is one of the recipes that doesn't have any kind of like deeply rooted family or travel or experiential background. So a lot of the recipes in the book, I really dug deep into my past, whether it's pull out family recipes and make them paleo or Whole30 or clean them up a little bit, or think back on like my favorite travels and favorite dishes that I've had wherever I was in the world and try to recreate those. Even within my own hometown in Toronto, we have such a vast array of cultural influences here. Everything, you know, all nationalities and cultures are represented in this amazing city. So I ate out as a kid very often with my brother and my friends at different ethnic spots. And this recipe doesn't have any kind of cultural background. It was one of the recipes where I was looking through my fridge thinking, okay, I need to make something exactly like tonight. It was a busy night. I need to get something on the table. I have some salmon. I have basically nothing else. I always have dill. I'm a huge dill fan. I always have garlic. And so I figured, okay, I have some coconut milk. Let's make a dish. And some of the recipes are born out of that. Like, what do you got in your fridge, which I think everyone can relate to. And I wanted to make sure we had a couple of those in the book that are kind of back pocket situations where you can lean on them if you really needed to. It doesn't have to be a full-blown production. It could be really easy and simple. And I hope it tastes really good. I made it last night, actually, because I bought a big side of salmon from the store. And I made it last night. Sorry?
Did you just want to double check that it was good because you haven't made it so long?
I may or may not have had to test the recipe again so I don't mess it up here. But it tasted like dill pickled chips. I swear to God, it tasted exactly like dill pickled chips with salmon. It was really good. So I'm really happy with the recipe, and I think people will like it if you like things like dill and garlic and those kinds of flavors.
No, I'm so excited. So we can make this. We'll ask some questions along the way if we have time. I know it's a quick dish, and then we'll answer anybody's questions afterwards. I pulled some questions because I know I polled everybody beforehand, and y'all sent in some really great questions, and we'll get to those in a minute, and then more if y'all have any lingering questions.
Yes. So I think if people are cooking at home with us, this is going to be really like a live, you know, you can do it with us kind of thing, join in. So essentially all we're going to do is, well, I should say we're making the pan-fried salmon with mustard dill cream sauce. If you already have the book, it's page 172. And basically we're just going to start by preheating our pan to like a medium-high heat. I'm using a hot plate, which is really, really efficient and strong. So if I burn the salmon, it's not my fault. I don't cook on this all the time.
I don't cook on this one all the time. This is like my video thing that I set up in my new kitchen, and we're not.
Yeah, but it's so awesome. Such a beautiful setup.
Thank you. So is yours. So are you in Toronto right now, or are you in Florida?
Yeah. No,
okay.
I'm in Toronto. Yeah.
I thought you were in Miami for some reason. I thought that your new kitchen was Florida. You have me all confused.
Oh my gosh. I wish I was in Florida. The weather is getting a little colder here. I miss Florida desperately. We were in Florida from January to mid-March, and we had to come back obviously because of COVID and pandemic, and the borders were closing and yada, yada, yada. So we came back. We've been back since March, but I miss Florida very much. So we've got a couple of salmon fillets here. I have in the book, I think it calls for boneless, skinless. Yeah, boneless, skinless. If you have skin on salmon fillets, this works the same way. In fact, there's a note at the bottom of the recipe saying how to go about it if you have skin on. I personally love salmon skin. Alex, I know you're not so much of a fan of salmon skin.
You know, I always try to like it, and every now and then I'm into it, but salmon is one of those fish that I prefer not to eat the skin. So I'll definitely, if I do cook the skin, I'll eat around it usually. Yeah,
that's another great thing. If you like the skin, or if you like the skin, you can eat. If you don't like the skin, you don't have to necessarily slice it all off beforehand. You can cook it with the skin on and then just eat around it, like you said. So all I do is I hit it with a little bit of salt and pepper. And you don't have to go really heavy with the salt, just a little bit, because there's capers in the sauce, which is really salty and briny. So a little bit of salt and pepper. And then just for like color and a little bit of sort of subtle spice, we have some paprika. And you can use a sweet paprika like I do here, which isn't spicy. You can use a spicy paprika if you want a little bit of heat.
You can use about cayenne pepper, and you know me,
yeah,
I pulled that out.
Yeah, you can definitely hit it with some cayenne if you want to go for a little bit of heat. You just need a light dusting. And what this does really is, I'm using actually a smoked paprika from Spain. I like smoked paprika. You can play with it. Last night, I actually used Old Bay. So you can hit it with Old Bay too. Play around with the spices. You can use the Cajun seasoning recipe in the book, whatever you like. This is really just for color and to make things a little bit more appealing and tasty. And both sides, you want to season both sides. If you have the skin on, you don't need as much seasoning on the second side, on the skin side, because the skin won't take on that much, it won't absorb or cling to that much spice or seasoning. All right, so that's good. We got them seasoned. Your pan is probably still a little cold, but I'm gonna go in with some olive oil.
About a tablespoon or two, or what do you?
A tablespoon of olive oil. Okay. You want a tablespoon of olive oil, and then if you have ghee, this will keep it Whole30 compliant. I'm fresh out of ghee. I'm using some butter. So I'm going to put in the butter with the olive oil. If you have ghee, you can do that. If you have neither, you can use just olive oil. That works too. The ghee and the butter is just going to add some flavor, where the olive oil adds some extra coating to the bottom of the pan so the fish doesn't burn. It'll add a little bit of flavor and a little bit of color, but I like to mix like olive oil and butter, olive oil and ghee, especially if you're going to be frying something and you want the flavor of butter. You want to put a little bit of that olive oil so the butter doesn't burn very quickly. It'll kind of like temper it a bit and make sure that the butter doesn't burn. So this is going to get nice and hot. And if you're using butter, you just want to wait for the white bubbles to kind of dissipate. So we got, how's yours looking?
Mine's looking good.
Okay, so if yours is ready to go, you can probably pop in the fish. What you're listening for, obviously, is the sizzle.
Oh, like yeah. It's ready for it.
That's it. I'm going to turn up my heat a bit.
Question for you. Do you keep butter in the fridge or on the counter?
You're setting me up. I know from your messages.
This is a controversy.
I keep it in the fridge because I'm a paranoid, paranoid person. I keep it in the fridge.
Okay.
But if I'm gonna have it, like if I'm gonna spread it on something, obviously I'm gonna pull it out beforehand. I think the misconception is in North America, most of the butter we're eating is pasteurized. So it's perfectly fine to sit out on the counter for a couple of days. If it's not moldy and it doesn't smell, I think it's okay, right?
That's my theory.
But what do we know?
I'm still alive. I've been doing it for a really long time, so yeah, we'll see.
I wash my raw chicken religiously, and there's everybody that says, don't do it, don't do it. I've been doing it for 35 years. I'm perfectly fine. So my salmon is going to go in. I'm going to raise the heat a little bit just because I think it's not hot enough. And you want to get like a good crust on it. That's the idea here. So you want to cook it, and you can, I'm just pushing it down a bit. Is your salmon skin on, Alex?
No, I had the fishmonger take it off for me. Because every time I try to take off the skin myself, I do it, but it's not beautiful. So
yeah, that's a great point. If you did want to get it off, ask your fishmonger to do it. Yeah. Any fishmonger worth their salt will do that for you. So I'm just going to rinse my hands really quickly.
Yeah, my knife skills with taking that kind of stuff off isn't like yours. Which is one question. Did you take a class on knife skills, or is that just you figuring it out? Yeah, that's just me figuring it out. I watched a lot of TV and I had a lot of spare time as a kid. I do that too, but I still have knife skills like that. Yours are, 5-star chef approved.
No, well, I think it's just a lot of practice, and I don't know. I guess I'm just I geek out about knives and I nerd out about knives. I like them a lot. So I think I'm more interested in than the average person. So maybe that's
Do you
something
have
to.
YouTube videos on like knife skills or anything like that?
Not on knife skills, but I do want to get something going where we do a kind of like a master class for where people can like do a whole series on knife skills, so that it's not just like how to chop an onion, but rather how do you handle a knife in all situations. So hopefully in the near future, when the book publicity and everything dies down, we can tackle that and make it a really great production.
Breathe.
That will not be a low budget cooking show. That will be a full-blown, full-scale production where we have everything really nice.
I know I would definitely use it because I definitely have amateur knife skills, but it works, whatever works.
Yeah, well, I mean, we can demo the knife, like some knife skills right now. So the next thing that's going to go in is garlic. Do you have yours already prepared?
I do.
Okay. Well, if you didn't, this is how people at home would go about it. If I've got like a big clove like this, one trick, you know, because I want to finely chop it, I'll bash it, right? But if it's just like whole like this, and I try to bash it, it'll fly. Like inevitably, it'll fly across the kitchen. So all I do is I just slice it in half, and now I've got a stable base. So if you can see, I've got a nice flat base, and then that goes on the counter, and then I can smash it much more stably, and then it doesn't fly everywhere.
I do the one that flies everywhere sometimes.
I do it too, to be honest. When I'm in a rush, I do it. And then, you know, the thing is, you always got to hold the knife. I like the pinch grip, where you hold the knife like this, and you wrap your fingers, the remaining 3 fingers, around the knife. And it looks really weird. That's the angle you're going for. But this gives you a lot of control. And then it's just a matter of, you know, following. Yeah, just like that. What are you talking about, Alex? You're a superstar back there.
Terrible, but yours are just outstanding. So I hope you do those master classes because I know everyone would love to do that.
The big thing I find is you just got to make sure that you keep your fingers tucked in. That's the most important part. And especially I've heard from some people who have long fingernails, and it's not a good thing for knife skills because the fingernails are all over the place, and I see them chopping like this, and that's a recipe for disaster.
Oh yeah, those stylish long fingernails can definitely get in the way. So I think my salmon's ready to flip. I'm not sure.
Okay, go for it. If it's you know this trick better than anybody because I know you cook a lot of salmon. But the way you can tell, right, if the salmon is cooked through and ready to flip is if it's kind of like if the white is peeking up the side, right?
Yes. You can see kind of on mine.
Yeah, I can see it on yours definitely.
Everywhere.
Yeah. So if yours is ready to flip, then definitely flip it.
Okay. I feel like I should use tongs for this. But I didn't set them out.
So my garlic is nice and chopped. I'm going to set that aside. And if you've got your garlic going, then you can set that aside too. If you're at home cooking with us.
Now, I think this is something that I struggle with. If I cook salmon or fish that doesn't have the skin on it, flipping it is more difficult. So I usually leave the skin on so that I have an effortless flip and it doesn't fall apart as easy, and then I'll just eat around it. What's your trick on flipping skinless fish?
Well, the trick, I didn't mention this, but the best thing to cook fish in is a non-stick skillet. I know people are iffy with non-stick, but there are some really great, non-toxic non-stick skillets available on the market right now too. The other thing is if you're gonna flip something with that's kind of finicky, especially like something like a cod or halibut or a white flaky fish, you just need, bless you. One thing you want to get, I'll see if I can get it out here. I'm going to try to find it. Is you want a fish spatula.
Like this?
Yes.
Well,
just
so
like that.
This is what I just did: one fish with my fish spatula and one with the tongs. And I found it for me personally, it was easier to flip with the tong than the spatula. But
it depends on the fish, right? So with this one, I've got a nice salmon. I'm going to flip it with tongs like you, and it's just as easy as, you know, that. And it's, you know, beautifully nice. And that's really what you're looking for, that nice golden, dark brown. But you want to, you know, you want to play around. You want to see what works for you, I guess. It depends on the fish. But I think starting in a nonstick skillet is really ideal. That's the big thing. Don't try to cook salmon in stainless steel. I think it's more difficult. You can do it, but you've got to be a bit more skilled, I think.
Yeah, I don't bother with that.
Yeah. So we've got our garlic going. Our fish is almost done. I like it. How do you like it? I like it medium rare-ish. I like it nice and pink in the middle. Yeah. So I have some fresh dill that I'm going to set aside for later. And this I'm just going to finely chop as well. And like I said at the beginning, I'm a big dill fan. Like I put dill in everything. I made the mistake of reading a review of the book. I can't remember where it was from. It was thank goodness it was a good review. But one of the comments was, there's so much dill in the book.
What can I say? I like dill.
I love dill. For me, this is one of the flavors of my childhood. My father put dill in everything, absolutely everything.
And it's been something I've been using in my adult life that I'm like, they were just robbing me as a child with all the delicious flavors of dill. They never used it, but.
Oh my gosh. Well, I think it's cultural too, right? You grew up in an Italian household, so maybe you had more parsley than dill. You know, my parents my father's from Moldova, which is former USSR. It's on the border of Romania. And my mother's from Lithuania, which is Eastern Europe, former USSR as well. And both of those countries, dill is like a really crucial ingredient in everything. You put it in absolutely everything.
Yeah.
So I got that going. So really there's very minimal effort here with the recipe. I chopped some garlic, I chopped some dill. I'm going to cut a lemon in half to squeeze it. And that's it, right? The rest is really just putting in the pan. If your salmon is ready, you can take it out and maybe set it aside on a platter. I'm going to grab a platter too. If I know where the kitchen is new, so I don't know where anything is.
So were your parents good cooks?
My father is a great cook. My mother's a great cook. The irony, obviously, was that I didn't like their food growing up. I didn't appreciate their food growing up because they always tried to cook really healthy. And I never really had any patience for healthy cooking as a kid. I always wanted junk food and stuff like that. So actually I learned to cook because I didn't like my parents' food. That was for me, like the only way I could remedy eating things like lasagna and pasta and cheeseburgers, because they wouldn't cook it for me. So I had to learn to cook to basically feed myself food I wanted to cook, or I wanted to eat. But my parents are both fantastic cooks. And there's a couple of recipes that I borrow from them in the book that I was really excited to include.
No, I love that you included a lot of your mama's soup and some other items. I noticed that. I like the sentimental stories behind food for sure.
I think that's what it's all about for me too, is like, I like food that is tied to memories. You know, I like the idea of thinking back on something and remembering where I first had it and how I felt and, you know, what was going on at the time and that sort of thing. I think that's one of the many reasons I love food. I know with you, it's something where you love it because it brings people together, and the community aspect also, which I think is so important as well, right?
Yes, for sure. Food's the best.
Yes. Okay, so the pan, if your pan is screaming hot, you want to just turn it down a little bit to a medium heat, or if it's good to go, you can keep it on medium high. I'm just going to go in with the chopped garlic. In the oil, I don't remove any of the oil, keep it all in there. If your oil is, if you notice that the salmon is burnt and there's a lot of burnt bits, then definitely you want to swap out the oil because it's going to make a greasy, bitter sauce. So you don't want that. So the garlic is,
I think it's okay.
yeah, I can see from the color even yours is good. That's totally fine. A lot of that is just spices that are caramelized.
Cayenne.
It's the cayenne.
I got
Is that why you sneezed earlier?
No, I just have allergies right now for my life.
Okay, so the garlic needs like 30 seconds. That's it. And then you're going to go in with the coconut milk.
And I notice you always use that brand of coconut milk. That's your...
You know, I should get them to sponsor the book tour.
They should. They should.
This is my Roy D is my absolute favorite. I get in the Tetra packs. I love this coconut milk. It's actually when I did one cooking class my entire life, and it was with a guy in northern Thailand in Chiang Mai named Basil. And when we cooked a coconut curry as well as some other things. And I was really excited because I saw a Roy D. They were using it in Thailand. So I'm like, this is legit. This is the stuff.
For sure. That's how you know. Well, I'm going to have to get that.
Yeah, it's great. If you can find it, I highly recommend it.
And I know
because it never separates.
And I know a lot of people wig out about coconut milk in recipes thinking that it overpowers the flavor, but I find with recipes like you did here that are really savory, it doesn't,
Yes.
it just gives it that nice, luscious texture rather than...
Yeah, and one of the things that I try to do, I get that question a lot, is does it taste like coconut, right? And I think with this one, it's very subtle. And the trick is, so with the coconut milk, we're gonna put in some Dijon mustard or I'm using a really nice stone ground mustard. The mustard is gonna really mask some of the flavor of the coconut. And also I'm gonna put in some lemon juice, which is gonna give it some tang. And that's also gonna mask the flavor of the coconut. And then lastly, the actual process of cooking the coconut down like this in the garlic, in the oil, in the lemon juice and the mustard is also gonna mask and mellow out that coconut flavor. So it's not gonna be something where you have like a sweet final tasting product. It's gonna be more, like you said, like more savory, especially with the dill, which is gonna kind of change the flavor profile altogether.
Dill and everything.
Yes. So this, I can just see, I'm not measuring it, but you want about, you want enough to make a nice cream sauce. And if it dries out on you, you can add a little bit more coconut milk. You can even add a little bit more water if you run out of coconut milk, say, and you notice that the sauce is getting a little dry and clumpy, then you can add water.
And would you say you're simmering at a light simmer?
Yeah, you don't want to boil it too much. You want to just keep it mellow and simmer it gently. And the idea here is to reduce it so that, again, you're mellowing out that coconut flavor. You're concentrating the flavor of the lemon juice and the mustard and the garlic all together. And did I put in? Oh, I forgot to put in the capers. So the capers go in as well. And if you got a little bit of juice from the capers, that's really great as well. That brininess is going to really play with the coconut and also mask that flavor.
So good.
So essentially what you're looking for here is you want the sauce to coat the back of a spoon, right? So if you dip a spoon in, you can sort of like run a finger through it. And that's really what you're after. So this is just going to do its thing. My pan is deciding not to heat up very quickly, but we'll roll with it. And then once it's just ready, we'll throw in the dill at the very last minute.
Okay.
So now we can just,
You normally, I know in the photo you have the salmon in the sauce. Do you normally return it in there, or do you just spoon the sauce over?
I like to put it back in the sauce as opposed to spoon it over top, because I like the way the colors look. It's just presentation. So that you get that nice bright red against the creamy sauce. I think it looks pretty.
What will you serve this with tonight? What's your side?
Oh, okay. So boiled potatoes is this is like my favorite thing.
Mashed potatoes, so I'm ready for it.
Excellent. Anything to soak up that sauce, right? Anything that you can throw on there to soak up that sauce is going to be fantastic. So boiled potatoes, mashed potatoes, even roasted potatoes Like if you've got some roasted potatoes going, roasted sweet
Or
potatoes.
incorporate a little bit of grains would be good.
Yeah, rice would be fantastic. Really anything you like that's neutral and is gonna kind of like absorb the sauce.
Good.
This is looking really nice.
Okay, so aside from dill and paprika, do you have any favorite? There was a question. It was if you had to pick 3, spices or flavorings to flavor your dishes that you could keep at all times, and that was all you could have, what would they be? We already know 2.
Oh. So what was it? Paprika, smoked paprika, and what was the other one?
Dill.
And dill. Well, dill is an herb. That's not fair. Dill
Well,
is an herb.
I think that's kind of how I can't remember how the question was worded. I could flip through, but it was like, if you could have 3, flavoring ingredients, like herbs, spices, whatever, like what would they be?
Oh man, that's such a hard question.
I know, it's like asking, which I'm not going to do this to you unless you want me to.
Don't ask me my favorite recipe.
What your favorite? It's like picking a favorite child. It's too hard. There's a food for everything.
The problem that I get down, if I answer the favorite recipe question, I just I start naming every single recipe in the book. I'm like, well, I like this one, but I also like that one, and I like that one too. That one's pretty good too. They went in the book. They went in the book, right? I'm sure it's the same with your book. They went in the book. We love them, right?
For sure, they're like little babies.
Yeah. So the 3 ingredients, I guess. Is it cheating to say kosher salt? Like, is that a cheat?
I would hope every kitchen has that, but yes, if that was not allowed, then it definitely needs to be in there. I agree.
So I guess smoked paprika, garlic. I'll say garlic.
Oh yeah.
And gotta have garlic. And okay, let's go with dill. I don't know. I think we can make a lot happen with those 3 things.
I think so too.
Any kind of fresh herb, a smoked paprika, or something spicy like that would be great.
Yes.
All right, how's your sauce looking?
Mine looks really great.
Okay, fantastic. Mine's looking really good too.
So maybe I need to crank my heat up just a tad, but.
So if anybody can see, it's really nice and creamy. It's still, I want to thicken it a little bit more, so I'm going to thicken it just a touch, but this will come together really quickly. There's like a really thin line between perfectly done coconut milk sauce and super dry, overcooked coconut milk sauce, where it just like, it just dries up on you, bone dry really fast. So you're gonna try to catch it just before then. All right.
So I know, okay, so this is a question where you don't have to answer your favorite recipe, but for a newbie cook, somebody that hasn't been in the kitchen much, other than this recipe, do you have any other on the top of your heads that would be good for them to go to, or do you feel like there's a lot of really good beginner chef recipes in your book?
That's a fantastic question. I guess I would say there are quite a few that are really beginner friendly and user friendly and accessible and easy to make. This would definitely be one of them. The Cajun cod would be another one, which is a kind of similar play, but you have more vegetables introduced with red peppers and spinach. The cover, the basil beef is super easy. The Canadian cover, the American cover with the chicken. Yeah, the chicken and the spinach and artichoke cream sauce is really easy. Then you have things that are like roasted chicken. My mom's roasted chicken with a Montreal steak spice is super easy. It comes out really great every time. So there are a lot of easy recipes, especially in the salads chapter and the vegetables chapter. So remember I was talking about that, like how the coconut milk sauce can dry out on you really quick. So it's pretty good. I want it just a little bit looser. So I'm just gonna put a little bit of water, no worries. If it happens to you, you don't gotta stress out at home and think, oh my God, I've ruined the sauce. A lot of the recipes are really easily fixed. So that's just gonna hold me over And also with a cream sauce like this, it's going to dry out as you plate it and put it on the table. Some of the steam is going to continue to evaporate, so it's going to continue to reduce.
Okay.
So that's done. I'm going to put in almost all of the fresh dill. I'm going to save a little bit, and I'm just going to stir that around. If you can see that. And the dill has a nice color, pop of color in there, and a lot of flavor. How's yours looking, Alex?
It's so good. And I gave it a little taste before the dill, and it's so good. And it's not too coconutty at all.
That's what we're after.
The dill is a great addition. I love it.
Yeah, dill and fish go together so well, right?
And capers.
Yeah. So I'm gonna taste it. The trick, if you're tasting it before you, like, I always say taste before serving and season as desired, right? That's a big thing because everybody has different palate. So the trick is you got to get a caper when you're tasting it, because the caper is super salty. So if you don't get a caper and you season it really heavily, and then you get a caper in a bite at the table, you serve it someone, it's going to be too salty. So
it's so perfect.
Taste it with a caper. Oh wow!
And I like a lot of salt, but this didn't need any extra salt at all for me.
Yeah, we didn't put any salt except for on the salmon, right? And it was a little bit of that.
No, it's perfect.
To me, it tastes like dill pickle chips. I don't know.
I'm into that.
I love dill pickle chips.
I love the flavors. It's really good. And I added that little bit of cayenne, and I really like that.
Yeah, spicy is the way to go here, I think, too. So once you're ready, you've got your salmon. You just want to nestle that right in the sauce, right? Carefully so you don't break it apart.
Oh.
And then if you've got any,
but it's okay. That'll be mine.
Fine.
That's what I always tell people. It's mine.
And if you've got any extra like pan drippings, like rendered juices, I like to, extra flavor. Yeah.
Sure.
That's it. You're done. You got a meal. If you boiled some potatoes on the side as this was cooking, that's minimal effort. Just bring a pot of water to a boil, add some potatoes. You can see. Anybody can see that at home.
And so easy.
Yeah.
And this is what I love about your recipes. It's such minimal ingredients. You're like, surely this isn't going to be like out of this world delicious, but it is every time. You are a master at just using simple ingredients to make something taste gourmet. You have the perfect name.
Well, I thank you so much for that. That compliment can be returned right back to you. I feel the same way about your recipes. Well, I know you're not going to do it, so I'm going to do it for you. I'm going to shamelessly plug your book too. If you don't have Alex's book, it's fantastic. You should get it. And also you can purchase it through the link at Interabang. The bookstore that is hosting us tonight graciously. It's on sale there. Please order a copy of that as well. It is truly fantastic.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that shameless plug from you.
You're too classy to do it, so I figure I'm going to do it for you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Tom, did we have any burning questions?
Yes, we had a couple people ask, especially our friend Jenna, would love to know both of your thoughts on people turning to cooking at home and sort of back to basics during the pandemic.
Should I start?
Go for it, Ronnie.
100%. Why, it's such a stressful time as it is, if you're going to start cooking more than ever before, I know for myself, I cook a lot and I cooked more than I've ever cooked before. I was leaning on really simple, basic things just to even get through the beginning when I was really stressed out and, thinking like everybody else, what is this new normal going to look like? 100%, I'm all for it. Don't make it a production unless you absolutely have to.
I agree. And I think also on top of it, seeing people find joy in cooking for the first time has been really fun to see, because I know it can be such a chore, and when we're in our everyday grind, we kind of stepped away from that. We had this new routine, and everyone was at home and had a little bit more time to dedicate to cooking and not feel so overwhelmed. And it's been beautiful to see people really come to love cooking for the first time that didn't before.
Love that. Our friend Ashita wants to know, Ronnie, if dill is your favorite herb, do you have a least favorite herb?
He loves all herbs.
All herbs equally.
Well, not all herbs. There's one I'm not such a fan of. I've never gotten to like it personally.
Really?
Yeah, I never. Yeah, there's one in particular I never really liked. That's
What
just
is-
me. Well, so, it's one that's legal here in Canada now.
Oh.
Doesn't always legal. Is there one that I don't?
The herbs.
You know what? I've never been I know a lot of people in France, they use lavender sometimes in like an herb de Provence. I've never been a fan of lavender in food personally. But I don't know if I have a least favorite. I don't use all of them that often. Like there are some where, like basil, for example, I only use in the summer because it's so exorbitantly overpriced in Toronto to get in the wintertime. So I only get it if I grow it in my backyard. But I like all herbs. Yeah, it's an easy way to add flavor to the dish.
Do you grow your own dill?
No, I'm terrible at growing everything. That's the irony. I can kill every single herb in the book, but for some miraculous reason, my basil is thriving. I've grown basil and rosemary. Rosemary is dead. Basil, full bloom.
See, I have the problem where I can grow it. It's just that then I've already got dried variants on hand. So it's like I got time, so why would I go pick fresh thyme and I put twice the amount and I already got the dried stuff. It's pretty good.
I'm gonna try. We just realized we never tried. I never tried the fish. I'm gonna try it.
Please.
We need to cue the Pooh Bear.
Cue the Pooh Bear. Oh man.
Mm.
It's
Perfect.
good, right?
I give it a 10, honestly. And I'm not just saying that because we're here. I genuinely love it. It's delicious.
Your check is in the mail.
Well, we've got lots of fans who loved your cooking at home, who made it for themselves, and are really, really enjoying that. So we're getting the comments just flooding in about how delicious and it's the best salmon you've ever had in your life. And also that a lot of people kill mint, apparently. And we're wondering if you had any tips on using sumac as a spice.
Sumac. This keeps coming up. Sumac. There are a couple of recipes in the book that have sumac. I love sumac. I have it. I'll get it out so you can maybe give a visual of it. But sumac is essentially a dried berry, and it's this beautiful red color, if you can see it. And it has like a tanginess, acidity to it that kind of tastes like almost like lemon zest, but not so punchy. So you can use it on top of salads, in a dressing or a vinaigrette. You can season or garnish grilled meat with it, like if you did some grilled skewers or some grilled kebabs, you can use that as a garnish. In Persian food, they garnish the kebabs a lot with sumac and also the rice. So if you go to a Persian restaurant, you'll almost always have some sumac there that you can dust on top of the rice. And I would say use it any place you want to kind of enhance a lemony acidity or a lemony acidic flavor profile. I find it kind of tastes like ketchup chips. I don't know. I keep having these chip references. I find sometimes it tastes a little bit like ketchup chips, like that kind of, that acidity, tanginess. Do you have, this is a question for you. Do you have ketchup chips in the States? I've heard.
We do, but they're not popular like they are in Canada.
Okay. I didn't know this. This is something
personally.
I never knew this. Somebody told me it was like ketchup chips. I didn't grow up with ketchup chips. I was like, what are you talking about? Ketchup chips are everywhere.
No, we don't eat ketchup chips as much as you guys here at all, but they do exist. You can find them.
Okay.
Okay. I want to ask you about Whole30 because I know that's going to be a question that a lot of people sent through. Kind of how you discovered Whole30 and what it, kind of did for you and how it kind of changed the way that you ate. And then, okay, we'll start with that. I won't overwhelm you with too many questions.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. So for me, Whole30 I found after I started blogging through Instagram. And I remember the way I found it was I was looking at what, when I had started blogging, I was doing some research on how to kind of maybe get more visibility on things that I was sharing on my recipes. And hashtags were something that I kept coming across. People are saying, you have to use all these hashtags, like these search terms. And I noticed on a lot of people I was following that I really liked their recipes and their content, people I was genuine that have now become friends. I kept seeing hashtag Whole30, hashtag Whole30. I was saying, what is Whole30? And it was always on something that also looked paleo, like a paleo recipe or something that was grain-free, gluten-free, refined sugar-free.
Paleo at this time or no?
Pardon me?
Were you eating paleo at the time?
Yeah, I discovered paleo before I discovered Whole30. And then Whole30 was the natural kind of progression for me. So I discovered Whole30, I saw all these recipes, and I started reading about the program. And I realized I had done a Whole30 without knowing it very early on when I first discovered paleo, because I was really strict. Like I pretty much, it was essentially a paleo Whole30. So no potatoes, even stuff like that. No green beans or anything like that. It was like a really strict version. And I was like, oh, I did this, but I didn't do it knowing what I was doing. And it was only after I first did a Whole30 that I realized, so this is why I'm making these decisions with my food. I'm looking for this food for comfort. I'm looking for this food when I'm bored. I'm looking for this food to have a good time, and what this makes me feel, and then what I'm doing after that. That's where Whole30 really shifted my perspective, because I had a pretty good couple of, I would say even a couple of years of clean eating under my belt at that time. So I was able to identify triggers, but I didn't know what those triggers meant. Whole30 taught me what those triggers meant. Mm-hmm. And also it became a really cool outlet for me to connect with a community that really embraced me, that I found, you know, when I don't know if you ever heard this when you started blogging, but I was told always, find your tribe, find your tribe. Did you ever hear that phrase?
No, I didn't really.
Oh, I kept hearing it over and over. You got to find your tribe, and that's how you'll, you know, grow your brand and whatnot. And I said, what the heck does that even mean? Find your tribe. Like, who am I looking for here? And then I found Whole30. I did a takeover, and I'm like, this is my tribe. Sure. And these are the people I relate to. I identify with their stories. They identify with mine. And it was like, you know, you know this to be true. It's the most welcoming, supportive, intelligent, engaging group of people. So that's how that natural progression came.
Yeah, absolutely. And so nowadays, what does your food freedom look like? Do you eat Whole30 all the time? Do you not? What about, I know Sophia doesn't eat Whole30. She just had pizza. How do you kind of incorporate meals for her? Like, what does your night routine look like with being a new dad, and what your food freedom looks like?
You know, everything got thrown for a loop when we first had our daughter. And I remember it happened, you know, my daughter was born on December 23rd, 2018, same birthday as me. So we share a birthday. And usually I do the January Whole30. I've been doing it for the past couple of years. And that January, I was like, no way. Like, I am not doing a Whole30. I'm too stressed out already. And I need a scotch. Like, I need a bourbon. I need something to sort of, I really like alcohol. Like, I love it. I love the taste and the flavor, the social aspect of it, the way it makes me feel. So I decided I'm not going to do a Whole30 at that point. I did one that September. It went really well. And then I did one the following January in 2019. Went really well. And then I did one in 2020. I did a Whole30 as well. And I find, kind of like you, where if I don't need it, I don't do it. I don't want to put myself on that path to just kind of like remedy a problem that I'm manifesting in my mind, because I don't really have the same kind of issues where I'm binging like I used to when I was a kid. So I use it as a way to recenter, to recalibrate my compass if I find myself going down a path of bad habits. Not necessarily binging and getting drunk every night, But if I'm like, if I notice myself, okay, you're drinking like a couple times too much in a week, you're eating foods for no particular reason that you probably don't want to be eating, and you feel like crap after, what are you doing? Like, let's bring it back in. You got this, you can do it. And this is really just a really great, straightforward way to reset, pump the brakes, reset, and get back on a good path. So that's when I do Whole30. The rest of the time, I would say, if I'm eating clean, like paleo, I would consider, I eat out of 21 meals in a day, I would say maybe 4, maybe 5 are not paleo. So really my wheelhouse is not only developing paleo recipes, because you know this to be true, it's our profession basically to develop recipes daily. So we kind of, you know, the only way we can do that is to sustain it, is to eat the food we make. Otherwise it's all going to waste. So I eat paleo very consistently, and then maybe 4 or 5 times in a week, I'll have an indulgence, whether it's, I don't know, a slice of my daughter's pizza, or you know, a nightcap with my wife, or whatever the case may be. Just as long as I monitor, like Whole30 has given me a great way to monitor myself, like to think about the decisions I'm making, which I really appreciate. I think that's a huge plus for the program.
Yeah, it's a great way to keep yourself in check and make sure you're taking care of yourself for sure. Oh, there's Tom.
Hey, Tom.
Hey, we did get a question about, and since you were talking about recipes and perfecting them, is there a recipe that you're working on right now that you're excited to perfect?
Give me a minute, Alex. You answer. I got to think about this one.
You know, I'm working on another project right now, and so I've been working on a lot of recipes that I'm excited about that I can't share quite yet. But yes, it's a whirlwind making recipes all the time, and it's so much fun, and it's so hard not to share immediately after all the time, for sure. But
is this another super duper top secret project, Alex?
It is a super duper top secret project.
My lips are sealed.
We know the code words. Are you working on any fun recipes?
You know, there are a couple that are on my. Pardon?
Do you have any good fall recipes in mind that you're working on?
Oh, you know, one of the things that was such a relief was with the book coming out, I was sitting on these recipes for 2 years, right? Like a lot of them I had already written, coinciding with the proposal. So 2 years I was just sitting on them, and I was like, oh my God, what a relief. I could finally like talk about these recipes. So there's nothing really that I'm working on. There are a couple that I want to try, like moqueca, which is a Brazilian seafood tomato coconut milk stew. Again, with the coconut milk, I'm always with the coconut milk. There's no dill. There's no dill in it though. And I want to make up. I think it's I'll make a porchetta, like on the Traeger. I like cooking on my Traeger, especially in the cooler months when it's not so hot outside. It's actually a great time to be outside to grill right now because you're not like drenched in sweat.
I'm in Texas, so I feel you.
Yeah. So I want to do a whole like beautiful porchetta on the Traeger. Aside from that, I don't know, just, you know, it's a lot of, right now it's a lot of cooking from the book because of great events like this, which I'm actually really happy to do. Like, I think it's
celebrate this. You worked so hard on it for 2 years. So I think that's a great thing to take a break and cook all that work you've done for 2 years. So
yeah, definitely.
We've got time for just any last final thoughts that you guys have.
What were some of my last final thoughts? We had lots of questions that came through. A lot about your cooking shows, but one of them that was important, something that people really miss, and this was a very frequent question, was your car salads. What do you eat for lunch now? Everybody needs to know.
So the car salads, oh my God. This was my like my claim to fame, the fact that I ate salads in a car. The car salads only came out of necessity because I was working in a university. I was teaching at a university that's about an hour and a half drive from where I live. And the only way to beat traffic on the way back after my class was to just hit the road right away. Otherwise I'd be stuck in gridlock. So I would pack a salad because it was also, I taught through the lunch hour. So I would pack a salad and I would eat it on the way back. And I scared a lot of people because I was eating while I was driving, admittedly. And people didn't like that. And I said, you know, they're probably right. Like, I should just eat it in the car. So I ate in the car and I would share what I packed, and people, they loved it. I don't know, people loved it. And a lot of people told me they also eat salad in their car. So I felt like, okay, my tribe, this is my tribe. So what happened to it? I stopped teaching and I work from home. So there's no point for me to go in the car and have a salad anymore. Although some days I kind of wish I could go. Sorry?
That would be a little interesting, but you might need a break from the family. You know, I love my family, but sometimes I'm like, I'm just going to go sit in the car.
Yeah, I can only imagine me telling my wife, hey, Catalina, I'm going outside to the car to have a salad. What? Where are you going? No.
That would be great.
So what do I do now? Unless I'm doing a Whole30, I actually usually don't eat lunch or breakfast for that matter. I don't have an appetite during the day. I drink coffee. I have a bulletproof coffee on most days, and that really holds me over. And it's not that I'm kind of trying to intermittent fast, but I do, and I just listen to my body, and I try to assess what I want, what I need. If I'm hungry, I'll eat a lunch. But again, it's like if I'm filming a recipe, whatever I'm cooking, I'll have. And then sometimes that rolls into dinner or leftovers from the night before.
I was going to say, I bet lots of leftovers are around in the house.
Yeah.
Okay, one last question. I love this question. What is one thing that you want to pass on to Sophia as far as your approach to food and cooking?
Oh, try everything, enjoy everything, savor everything. Don't ever turn up your nose to anything that isn't something you're familiar with. Experience everything, because there are so many things you will really, really like. Maybe not right away, but if you try them and they're prepared with love, I think you'll really, really enjoy them. And that's something that I've like always experienced with myself. I guess it's kind of selfish because I want to put a little bit of me into her with that. But I grew up eating everything, like all nationalities, all cultures. And that really gave me a good perspective on food in general, flavors, not just developing recipes, but just enjoying good food. And I noticed like when I was traveling to say places like Spain, I did my doctoral research in Spain, and I would go out for dinner and the only available options were Spanish food or Spanish food. And Alex, you probably know this because you were in Seville, right? It's a lot of small towns, there's just Spanish food or Spanish food. Maybe you'll get like, you know, in a big city, you'll get like a shawarma shop or a kebab shop or something like that. Or McDonald's, that's true. Or McDonald's. So I've always like held it really near and dear to my heart that growing up in Toronto, you can experience everything. So I guess that would be just try everything and don't refuse anything. And if you go to somebody's house and you don't like the food, say you like the food, because it's rude. It's not.
I love that. I like that rule. That's a great thing to pass on to her for sure.
Yeah.
Well, Ronny, it's been a real pleasure to host you this evening. Thank you so much for coming to us and showing us how to cook this delicious salmon. I know the folks who cooked it say that it's wonderful. You say it's wonderful. It's something I'm going to have to try. So thank you for that. Alex, it has really been a pleasure. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's right there. You said it was page 176?
172.
172, pardon me. Well, if you guys need to check it out because it looks phenomenal and I'd love to cook it and eat it, frankly. Alex, thank you so much. It's been great. I want to give a big shout out to both of their books. So Alex's The Defined Dish you can find on my website or in my store. Ronny's got the Primal Gourmet Cookbook. You can find that online or at my store. We do have signed cook plates for the Primal Gourmet Cookbook, which we're so excited about. So you can make sure that you get one of those. And you can find all those on the links both in the comment section and in the post above. So take a look, buy it tonight. We'll get it shipped out to you or you can pick it up at the store. Thank you both so much for a wonderful evening. It has been a delight to spend this time with you.
Tom, thank you so much. And thank you for hosting us.
Anytime, Ronny. Come back to me with the next cookbook. You know, I'd love to have you again.
Thanks for dinner, Ronny.
Thank you,
Thanks, Ronny.
Alex. You're the best. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye, y'all. Okay, we're off the live stream, and we're done.